Will the New York Jets trade up for Cam Ward? What does Jordan Travis's future look like in Florham Park, New Jersey? Today on a Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, we will be joined by Brian Costello of the New York Post, talk all things New York Jets, especially the latest rumors surrounding the quarterback position. A lot to get into. We'll cover that and much more all coming up here, like I said, on a Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk.
J-E-T-S, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend, Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk here on this Friday, February 21st, 2025. Appreciate all your support. Make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel on your way into the building. It's completely free, helps us grow significantly, helps other Jet fans find out what we're doing here every night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking all things New York Jets. Can't thank you enough for all your support. Like I said, that's the free way to contribute to the show. Paid way to contribute through the leaderboard on down below. It's contributing to our membership raffle. Every membership gifted or every $2.99 super chat will get you a ticket into our membership raffle. We give away prizes at the end of every month. This month's prizes include a Joe Klecko signed jersey, a Mark Gastineau signed jersey, a Bill Parcells signed photo, a free item from our merch store, and a channel emoji. So I can't thank you enough for all your support. Keep the memberships flowing. It's a great way to help support the show. But let's bring on our guest for today's show. He covers the New York Jets for the New York Post. It's our guy, Brian Costello. Kaz joining us here on the program. Kaz, appreciate the time as always.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Connor.
Of course. And Kaz, last time we spoke, it was in the heat of free agency last year. You know, the Jets were making blockbuster moves. Now the massive question after 2 all-in years, now the Jets are going to move on from Aaron Rodgers. How aggressive do you think the Jets will really be in free agency based on their cap scenario?
Yeah, it's hard to know, Connor, right? Because we don't have a track record with Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn. You kind of get a feel for guys after a few years of how they handle this stuff. And we also don't know what the budget is from Woody Johnson. I know we focus a lot on cap space because we can know what the cap space is from great websites like Over the Cap and things like that. But the key number, like when you talk to coaches and GMs, the key number is the cash budget and what Woody Johnson gives them to spend. And that influences a lot of decisions. So we don't know that. So, I don't see them being overly aggressive, Connor, because I don't think, number one, they're not in desperation mode. They're new. Yes. So they've got some job security. Not saying they don't want to win, but when you see those spending sprees, a lot of times it's when these guys get to a point where they feel like they have to win or they're going to lose their job that year. And that leads to, I think, some mistakes in free agency. And the other thing is I don't think this roster is in such bad shape where they need to go crazy in free agency. I think that, we know the positions that they need to address. And I think they can do that without going nuts, on day one of free agency. But there's a lot of unknowns with the new regime. We'll see how they proceed here.
Kaz, how much cap space do you think the Jets will ultimately create? Is it in that $50 to $60 million range after they move on from Allen Lazard, Devontae Adams, and then officially cut Aaron Rodgers with what will most likely be a post-June 1 designation? Is it in that range? And are there any surprise cuts you could see the Jets maybe making over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think it'll be in that range. And remember, if Rodgers post June 1, they're going to have to carry his cap number until June 1. So it's not really going to help in free agency so much. Surprises, there'll be a surprise because we don't see them coming, right? So there's nothing, yeah. I'm not looking at anything and going, that would make sense. I think from a roster's perspective, you probably don't want to create any more holes on this team with making moves at positions where they feel pretty good at. But I think the obvious ones are the ones you named, that we've been talking about for a while. We'll see with the combine next week. We'll learn a little bit more about their plans, I'm sure, and stuff is going to start coming out about what they're thinking about. But to me, I don't foresee any surprise, but that's why they'd be a surprise because you don't see them coming.
Cause you mentioned not making any moves that are just going to open up another hole. A move that I could potentially see opening up another hole for no reason is not re-signing Morgan Moses to a deal similar to 1 year, $5 million, 1 year, $7 million. Seems like a player Aaron Glenn wants in the building. A leader. He's durable in the sense that he's able to play through injuries when he's on the field. He's an average starting right tackle in this league. Connor Hughes of SNY went out and said the Jets are likely to move on from Morgan Moses. Cause, do you have any intel there? Do you expect the two sides to part ways, and why is that, if so?
Yeah, I think that's a different situation, Connor, than cutting someone, right? He's not
Uh-huh.
under contract. He's going to be 34 years old this season. He's been battling injuries. He battled injuries with the Jets last year. He battled injuries his last year in Baltimore. I know he's a good locker room guy, but I do think the Jets are going to be trying to get younger
Okay.
on this roster, and I'm not sure Morgan makes sense from that regard. I haven't been told they're moving on from him, but I could see them going in a different direction at right tackle.
Cause Cam Ward, the talks of trading up for Cam Ward in this year's draft are underway. The Jets potentially trying to put together a mega package to get up to the number one overall pick, swapping positions practically with the Tennessee Titans. It would certainly be a hefty price if the Jets want to go up and get Cam Ward. For me, he's my number one quarterback in this year's class, but I don't think that's saying much just given how weak of a quarterback class it is this year. Cause, have you heard any rumblings of the Jets potentially trying to put together a package to go after Cam Ward in this year's draft?
No, I think we're way too soon for that, Connor. I think that would start at the combine. If there's any conversations that in that regard, and usually when you see these type of big draft trades, they typically happen in April. Sometimes they happen in March, like when the Jets moved up for Sam Darnold. That happened on St. Patrick's Day. But I'd be surprised if the Jets did that, Connor. I think they're in a position right now where you're not going to want to mortgage the future for one player. And if Cam Ward is viewed as the guy around the NFL, the Titans are going to take him number one, right?
Mhm.
If the Jets have a strong conviction that he's going to be an all pro franchise quarterback, then do whatever you got to do to get him. I think with quarterbacks, we've seen that with the Jets long enough. Like that's the one position where you do whatever it takes to get that guy. I'm just not sure Cam Ward is that guy, and I don't pretend to be a draft expert. I haven't watched a lot of Cam Ward games. I've seen him a little bit, but there doesn't seem to be a consensus feeling that he is a Andrew Luck type prospect in this draft. So I would think, moving from 7 to 1, that's going to cost you a lot, and it's probably going to cost you future picks. And I'm not sure the Jets are going to want to start off doing that.
Now, Kaz, I know you mentioned it's still really early in the pre-draft process, but ultimately, where do you think the Jets lean at 7? You mentioned you think it's unlikely for the Jets to try to trade up and go get Cam Ward. Is it exploring a trade back? Is it potentially trying to go and draft Tyler Warren? Is it going defense? Is it best player available? Which route do the Jets go when it comes to approaching the 7th overall pick in this
Yeah,
year's
I think it's probably best player available, Connor, which is not the
Okay.
fun answer, but I think there's enough different directions you can go at in 7 and be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If you mentioned Tyler Warren, if they go defensive line, that's obviously a hole. If they go wide receiver, they've got a need there. They can go best player available and still probably fill a need at 7. So I think that's probably the direction they go. I don't think they're going to lock themselves in to one spot.
Kaz, thoughts on the Jackson Dart hype? I know, like again, like you said it's so early.
Yeah.
I see you laughing there. I'm not very high on Jackson Dart either. I think I am as my quarterback 5 in this year's draft, and some people have him. They think he's worthy of the 7th overall pick in this year's draft. Is he worth the hype, Kaz?
Yeah, I don't think he's the 7th. I don't think he's going to be picked 7th. I think an interesting spot for the quarterback for Jets is the day 2. When you get to round 2, do you use that pick on a quarterback or the 3rd round pick? Do you use that on a quarterback that you're kind of taking a flyer on, right? They're not going to be a day 1 starter, but they could compete. Does Dart fall into that range? I mean, right now all the hype is pushing him up, but again, we've got 2 months to go, so we'll see what happens when we get there. I think he's an interesting name if he's there on day 2 for sure. I don't think he's a 1st round pick, especially a high 1st round pick. Maybe somebody takes a flyer on him late in the 1st round, but to me, I'm not seeing all the hype that's going on right now.
Speaking of Flyers, Kaz, last year on day 3, the Jets decided to
Yeah.
draft Jordan Travis. Obviously, full redshirt season for him last year. Didn't see him in one practice, let alone even a preseason game. What are you hearing regarding how his rehab is really progressing last year? Jeff Ulbrich at the end of the season
Yeah.
made it known that it was going pretty slowly. Where is he right now from a rehab perspective? And is there a chance that Travis is even fighting for a roster spot next summer?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything since the season, and the stuff at the season you heard wasn't good. He had a setback in his recovery. I don't think you can go into your off-season planning counting on him for anything. I think he goes into camp fighting for a roster spot, like you said.
Mm.
I don't think you really can have any expectations for him right now. We'll probably get an update on him, Connor, at the combine. When Muji and Glenn speak. I'm sure there'll be a Travis question at some point, but I doubt there's been much progress since the season, and we'll see what he's able to do once the OTAs get here and then training camp.
How do the Jets really fill out the quarterback room this offseason? Obviously, moving on from Aaron Rodgers, they have Tyrod Taylor on the roster, who's most likely either going to be a backup or a starter next season. And then Jordan Travis, you mentioned, is fighting for a roster spot. Is it, keeping Tyrod, signing a veteran to battle it out with Tyrod? Is it potentially trying to go trade for someone, whether that's, a Malik Willis, a Tanner McKee, a Kenny Pickett, a Hendon Hooker, someone of that nature? Is it drafting a guy? Is it both? How do the Jets fill out the quarterback room this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, the way I would go with Tyrod Taylor and then somebody else, right? And that somebody else could be a draft pick, like I said, or it could be signing someone like a Justin Fields, to come in and compete. I wouldn't necessarily be trading assets for Hendon Hooker or the other guys you mentioned. I think that's too much of a gamble, like to give up assets for them. I think you go with Tyrod and somebody else in the training camp and have a little training camp battle and see who comes out of it. And then, you have a developmental guy as the third guy, whether that's Jordan Travis or somebody else. But to me, that's the plan that makes most sense to me. I like Fields. I like the upside. I like trying, that feels like to me, it could be a high reward, like we've seen with, Sam Darnold in Minnesota. We've seen with Baker Mayfield in Tampa. You've seen guys who were high picks, didn't work out where they were drafted, bounced around a little bit, and they're having success elsewhere. You'd have to tailor the offense to him. I don't think he really fits into what, Detroit did last year offensively. Like, you're going to have to, Jared Goff's a pocket passer. So you'd have to tailor the offense for him. But I think he's a guy who, you could have success with this year. And maybe if you hit it right, maybe you got your guy for the next few years.
Cause I'm a big Justin Fields guy in free agency for all the reasons you mentioned. He's going to be 26 years old in a few months. He has a lot of upside, and I feel like you can you could transition over to a more run-heavy offense. Because when you have Fields back there, and then there's a running back like Breece Hall, you have to worry about Fields also baiting you with his legs. He's a dual threat type guy, a freak athlete. So the options aren't all that pretty. You might as well go ahead and pay Justin Fields, the $8-9 million on a 1-year deal. See what he has, and if he impresses, great. If not, again, the options aren't all that attractive that you're looking at and comparing Fields to. I mentioned the $8 million there, Kaz. How much money do you think the Jets are really willing to pay a quarterback this offseason? Is it the $8-9 million for Fields, or is it, trying to get a Taylor Heineke in the building for $2.5 million to come in and battle?
I think they got to be willing to spend, Connor. I think they have to be willing. I mean, that's still an amazing bargain for quarterbacks, right? Like, you look at the guys who are making $40 to $50 million, and Dak is what, $60 million? Like,
exactly.
You're paying even $10 million. That's a bargain at the quarterback position. And you have Tyrod already, so you got to add him in there too. But I don't think they're going to hesitate to spend money on the quarterback if that kind of money, if someone becomes available, and it's going to be a 1-year deal. It's going to be a prove it deal. So I don't see much risk in that contract at all.
Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button. You are subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. Helps us grow significantly here on the show. Connor Long, Brian Costello here with you on a Friday edition of NY Fly Jets Talk. Any questions for Kaz and I, throw them in the chat. Appreciate all your support. Swamp Ranger wants in on the conversation. He says, how likely is it that they bring in Sam Darnold? Kaz, take it away.
Yeah, I don't think that's very likely at all, Swamp Ranger. I think especially from Sam's perspective, it didn't go well here. I'm not sure why Sam would want to come back here. He needs to go. If he doesn't stay in Minnesota, he'll probably want to go somewhere else where he's can kind of turn the page and start something new. If he comes back here, it's just brings back a lot of bad history and that kind of thing. So I don't see that being a realistic option for them.
Cause if he does shake loose from Minnesota, how do you think other NFL teams will look at him? Because he put together, a great
Yeah.
regular season with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach, and then gets into week 1 of the playoffs last week of the season, the 2 biggest games of the year, and he seems to choke. How do NFL teams view him, not only from a price range, but are they willing to just automatically give him the reins of the organization as a starting quarterback?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Connor because there's a lot of desperate teams out there for quarterbacks, not just the Jets. So I do think somebody will pay him, but it's interesting. You mentioned Kevin O'Connell. He also had Justin Jefferson. He also had a really good offensive line in front of him. And like, that was always the thing with Sam was when things were good around him, you could see it. You could see the talent. You could see that what was there. It was when, he didn't really elevate those around him. So if a team like the Giants think he's going to come in and like really make them a lot better, I don't see it as much. I think he needs to be at a place like Minnesota that had a lot of pieces in place and has a good offensive coach in place to really have success. But I think somebody will pay him, Connor, because he's going to be the number 1 free agent at the quarterback position if Minnesota doesn't re-sign him.
Dino says yes. Fields, Olave, Wilson. Let's go. Cause I want to get your
Ryan
thoughts
Day,
on
Ryan Day. Get the Bosa's in here.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I don't know about Olave. I know there's some chatter about that. I mean, there's a lot of injury concerns there. I'm not sure I would do that, but with that is a bonus to me of Justin Fields, right? I don't think you do it to make Garrett Wilson happy, but I think if it is going to make him happy, great. Like that, I think that's a bonus. Like the Garrett Wilson thing is going to be a huge story this offseason, and what happens with him, and do they give him an extension? Does he ask for a trade? We're going to go through all of that. So, if his college quarterback is going to make him a little happier to be with the Jets, that's great. Again, that's not the reason you do it. You got to believe that he's going to be the quarterback. But I do think it's a nice bonus to Justin Fields.
You mentioned Olave there, Kaz. What really is his trade value? Because he's someone who's dealt with a ton of injuries, a ton of concussions throughout his first few years in the league. Was a first-round pick, though, just a few years ago. Are you looking at a 2 and a 4, a 3 and a 4, a 3 and a conditional maybe 4th-round pick? What does his value look like?
I'm not sure, but if I'm the Saints, I'm not trading him right now because his value is low, right? Like you're trading him at the value is the lowest. So if I'm the Saints, I'm trying to get a little more out of him. What he was drafted the same year as Garrett, right?
Yep, 2020. Yeah.
So they have a 5th-year option to decide on with him, and they still have him under contract anyway. So, yeah, I would hold on to him if I'm New Orleans and see if he can, maybe he starts the season off great this year, and you can trade him at the deadline and get more for him or something like that. But I feel like his value is going to be lower right now than it should be because of the injuries.
Speaking of trading picks here from that draft class, Kaz, Breece Hall, do you think the Jets could potentially try to orchestrate something, on draft day for him, whether that's getting a 3rd and a 5th, maybe even I think if you could just get a 2 for Breece Hall, that would be a solid package because while I'm a big fan of Breece Hall's signature right there on the helmet next to Garrett Wilson, I don't think he's getting a second contract with this team. And while he was underutilized, and I'm not saying Keith Carter was an awful line coach and run game coordinator. That's certainly a main reason due to his struggles last year. However, I don't think he gets a second contract with this team, and he hasn't shown all that much throughout his first few years in the league when you really think about it.
So then why would a team trade that for him, Connor? Why would another team want him?
Because he has upside.
Okay, but I would, if I'm the Jets, I want to take advantage of that upside, and like you got him this year. You could tag him next year if you wanted to keep him next year, right? I would try to milk everything I could out of Breece Hall before I let him go. I think there's a lot of talent there. It didn't work last season. You mentioned Keith Carter. That was part of it. I think the offensive line wasn't particularly great at run blocking. I think Aaron Rodgers checked out a lot of runs. I think the offense that they ran didn't help Breece so much. So, I think Breece could have a nice bounce back season. I think there's talent there. I hear what you're saying about the second contract. I think you could almost say that about any running back at this point now, it looks like. But I would hold on to him. I'm not looking. I just don't think the Jets are in this mode where they need tons of draft picks. I think, again, like you trade Breece Hall, you're creating a hole. I think Braylon Allen did some nice things last year, but I don't think he's your workhorse back. I think he's a nice complementary piece. I think the Jets could have a really nice running back room with Brees, with Braylon Allen, and with Isaiah Davis. I think those three guys all showed a lot. Brees has obviously shown a lot in the previous 3 years. I thought Braylon Allen showed a lot early last year. I thought Isaiah Davis kind of came on late. I think they've got a good running back room. And, like we talked about before, if they get Fields and you want to be a run-heavy team, you got the horses to do it with this thing. So I'm not giving Brees Hall up right now.
Kaz, one more question here before we let you go. I'll stay on after a little longer after we let Kaz go. But Nick T comes in. He says, any thoughts on Glenn going a similar route at quarterback to Parcells, former first-round picks that underperform Mac Jones or Jameis Winston? Kaz, what do you got?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Like I get it. I think Mac Jones doesn't throw me as Jameis has some potential. But I'm going Fields over those two guys.
Yeah.
I just think the upside on Fields is so much higher than those guys. Jameis has got to be what, in his early 30s at this point?
31, 32, I think it is.
2015 draft pick. So, and like you've seen with Jameis, it can be good and it can be really, really bad. So, and I also think with Jameis, even if he has like a good year this year, you're not like, okay, we found our guy for the next 3 years. Fields, if he plays well, like you're all right, let's see what he can do for the next couple of years. Mac Jones would be in that boat too, but Mac Jones to me, I don't know. I didn't love what I saw there in New England. So but I understand the Parcells comparison to 97, but Parcells rolled with O'Donnell for the year, and then Vinny signed like late in 98, I think June, July, something like that. I wasn't your age, Connor, back then, but I was close to it. I wasn't covering the team. I'm not Samini, so I wasn't covering the team back then. But I believe he was signed like in the summer in 98. So he was just kind of off the scrap heap. So he was even more, I think, cast aside than those guys that he mentioned. But yeah, I think rolling the dice with somebody other teams have given up on is an attractive option here. I think it's worked. I also think too, I get the Aaron Glenn Parcells, connection. I also think Aaron Glenn just watched it in Detroit. Jared Goff was not as much of a failure with the Rams as Darnold was with the Jets or Baker Mayfield was with the Bucs, but they traded him, right? They basically benched him at the end. They didn't start him in that playoff game. They moved on from him, and he resuscitated his career with Detroit. So I do think that's probably fresh in the mind of Aaron Glenn. Is there a guy out there like that they could do this with? I'm not sure if there's a trade candidate, but maybe he views one of these guys that are out in the street in that same regard.
Kaz, I have to ask you about one more quarterback here, and that's Kirk Cousins. We're hearing the Cousins, the Jets rumors, and it's a familiar rumor. We've heard that from years ago. Woody Johnson trying to throw the bag at Kirk Cousins. This is the name that scares me because someone whose arm appeared broken last year, 1 year removed from the Achilles, really couldn't move. But people are obviously going to point to his success with, Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings in 2023, 2022, towards the back end of his tenure there. But at the same time, like we spoke about with Sam Darnold, you have Justin Jefferson, a really strong offensive line, and then a quarterback guru in Kevin O'Connell, or the Kirk to the Jets rumors real for the vet minimum, Kaz.
Yeah, I think what you have there, Connor, is Rick Spielman is the reason those rumors are out there, right? Everyone's connecting the dots, and that's what we do this time of year. There's not a whole lot of real information out there. It's a lot of connecting the dots. It's Rick Spielman's with the Jets now, and he signed him in Minnesota. To me, like Kirk Cousins is like Aaron Rodgers light. Like
exactly.
if you were gonna sign Kirk Cousins, like I would have just stuck with Aaron Rodgers. And Kirk doesn't have all of the McAfee
luggage.
Egypt. He doesn't have that stuff to deal with. So it's a little different, but to me, he's a guy. He's at the tail end of his career. He's dealing with injuries now. He didn't play all that well last year for Atlanta. So I don't know. He doesn't really appeal to me. I get it. And I think you can have him for cheap, right? Because Atlanta's going to pay his salary this year. So he could come in for the veteran minimum. But I don't see a lot of upside there, Connor. I think his best days are behind him. So I'm not on the Kirk train.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Costello. Appreciate you hopping on with us. As always, Kaz, you got any final thoughts?
No, how's school, Connor?
It's going well.
You're doing well in school or just podcasting?
It's going well, Kaz. I had the 4-day weekend, and then we got spring break coming up in about a month or two. So school's
My
going
kids
well.
have more time off from school than I can even imagine. They're always off from school. So.
And you're in New Jersey, right?
I'm in New Jersey, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, out here on Long Island, we had a 4-day weekend this past weekend for President's Day, and then we have 2 weeks off in the back end of March, early
2 weeks.
Yes, because so basically a lot of the other schools around here so my district's different. A lot of the schools around here get the full week off this week, but then they get 1 week of spring break. We get a 4-day weekend, so Monday and Tuesday off, and then we get 2 weeks on the back end of March, early into April.
Yeah, now my kids were off Monday, and I think they had a half day last Friday, and then then they go spring breaks in April. But yeah, it's they have a ton of early dismissals. They always have these half days.
Really?
Yes. They get
so a lot of off days in the Costello household.
Yeah, yep, a lot of them. So, but,
Cos, appreciate your time as always.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Costello of the New York Post checking in here on the show. If you haven't followed him on Twitter, read his work, NewYorkPost.com. Follow him. One of the best Jets reporters you will ever find. I appreciate you tuning in. Stay on here a little longer, answer your questions, take your calls. Any questions, throw them in the chat. If you want to call into the show, you could do so by clicking the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Always fun chopping it up with Kaz. Thought he made some great points. Kaz and I are pretty much in lockstep in basically every single thought we have with the New York Jets, which is always fun. I always love to disagree with some guests, and then I always like when a great football mind like Brian Costello, and I have similar thoughts to him. Basically, with the quarterback, if you guys have been listening to the show, Kaz basically echoed everything I've been saying over the past month and change with the quarterback position. Might as well take a flyer on Justin Fields, and that if you were great. Another point I've been making: if you were to go after Kirk Cousins, you might as well have just kept Aaron Rodgers, because Kirk Cousins at this point in his career is a poor man's Aaron Rodgers in the sense of they're in the back end of their career. Their great days are past them. Except Aaron Rodgers, you can argue, is potentially even more mobile than Kirk Cousins and has a way stronger arm. So again, if you're going to roll with Kirk Cousins, the whole thing and the whole appeal is he's a team guy with the vet minimum. I don't care. You might as well have paid Aaron Rodgers the $37.5 million next year and the $63 million in 2026 at that point. So no to Kirk Cousins, and Kaz and I are both on the Justin Fields train for quarterback, which is always great to see. Like I said, appreciate you tuning in. Any questions, throw them in the chat. If you want to call into the show, take your calls with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Let's say what's up to everyone. Caden is in the building, channel member, channel moderator, comes in extra early for the show. Caden, always good to see you in the chat. Appreciate your support as always. Jojo Townsell in the house. Appreciate you tuning in, channel member here on the program. Jets are trading up for Ward. You came in early as well, but if you heard Brian Costello, he doesn't think the Jets are going to try to put together a mega package to go ahead and try to trade up for Cam Ward, nor should they, because I'm not giving up picks next year under any circumstance. I think next year with the stacked quarterback class, you have Nico, you have a guy like Lenore Sellers, Archie Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck going back to school, Drew Aller. That's a stacked quarterback class, and I think that's where you get your franchise guy. I don't think it's worth trying to push it, climb up in the draft this year, and, try to force your franchise guy in year one, because let's be real. The Jets don't hit on Cam Ward. If Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji don't hit on Cam Ward, that's 3 years of their, that's 3 years of their regime down the drain. Because you have to obviously give an opportunity in week one. Year one, excuse me. Year two, they're going to be the day one starter, and then year three, when you draft someone within the first round as a quarterback, let alone the first overall pick, you have a 3-year plan in place with them, and there's not really much getting out of that. Not much getting out of that. Our guy Harlan Abraham in the building. Harlan, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your support as always. Hep in the house. Hep, appreciate you tuning in as always. Appreciate all your support. Hep says linebacker, offensive line, wideout, safety, corner. That's all. Let's see. Linebacker, I agree. I think you need to get someone in the draft with CJ Mosley potentially retiring, Jamie Sherwood potentially. Like, here's the thing: the Jets are in a really, really interesting situation, excuse me, at the linebacker position, because they can either be in a scenario where at the end, in the next 2 months, they either have a lot of linebacker depth or they're really, really thin at the linebacker position. And that's because of two people, Jamie and Sherwood and CJ Mosley. again, strong possibility Jamie Sherwood returns, and then there's the flip side of, well, he could follow Jeff Ulbrich to Atlanta. He could follow Robert Saleh back to San Francisco. So there's that possibility, and also the possibility of C.J. Mosley retiring. So let's say Sherwood signs with the 49ers, I'm making it up, and Mosley retires or just moves on from the Jets and tries to play for a new team. The Jets cut him as he refused to take a pay cut, something of that nature. Then the Jets basically have one, in my opinion, legit starting linebacker in this league in Quincy Williams, because after that, there's a huge drop-off. Then you're looking at Chad Surratt, who's also a pending free agent, Zaire Barnes, Sam McGuavin. Sam McGuavin's also a free agent. So you're really only looking at Quincy Williams then. But let's say, both go in the Jets' favor. C.J. Mosley ultimately returns, which I think will happen, and Jamie Sherwood comes back on a nice, 3-year, $22 million contract. Then you still have a lot of depth there. So I still want to draft at the linebacker position over the next few years. I think it's always great to try to develop talent there. Obviously, Aaron Glenn, a defensive mind, he's done some great things with the linebackers. I mean, look what they've put together in Detroit with guys like Malcolm Rodriguez, who's a 5th-round pick, Jack Campbell, who they were really, really keen on, and they drafted him in the 1st round. They've really developed some nice linebackers there. Ultimately, the main reason why a guy like Kelvin Shepard got the promotion in Detroit as their defensive coordinator once Aaron Glenn took the Jets job. So agree with linebacker 1,000%. Next up on the list, you have offensive line. Couldn't agree more. You need a lot of offensive line depth. Not only do you need offensive line depth, but now with the Jets most likely moving on from Morgan Moses, which I think is still a massive mistake. They're going to need a starting right tackle. I didn't want Morgan Moses to be the starter per se next season, but I wanted him back as a depth piece. So now you're just opening up another hole. Some names I'd watch in the draft, though: Ozzie Trapillo, the tackle out of Boston College; Hollins Pierce, tackle out of Rutgers. For the interior, Connor Colby, guard out of Iowa, is a 5th-round name to watch. Center Seth McLaughlin out of Ohio State, some names to watch. So that's where I am on the offensive line. Wide receiver, 1,000%. I think at this point, the Jets most likely moving on from Lazard and Devontae Adams. You have one legit starting NFL caliber wide receiver, that's Garrett Wilson. So whether it's trying to add through the draft, going after a Tet McMillan in the 1st round, because you guys know I'm really, really big on Tet. Waiting till day 3 for Jalen Royals, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins type, a Jack Beck if you want to reach up high in the 2nd round with pick 42. Some names there for wide receiver to watch. Other name, Ricky White from Nevada. If you want to go really, really late in the draft, safety. Oh my God, another position I've been clamoring about. The Jets need a lot of depth there. They're going to basically need to revamp the whole safety room. Everyone who was on the Jets roster as a safety last year is a free agent. I think there's here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say regarding the safety room. There's a chance the Jets only have one true safety on the roster yet next year, before you enter free agency, because obviously you have the opportunity to resign your guys first. The only guy I could potentially see coming back with the Jets next season at the safety position is Tony Adams. And that would be a $3 million 1-year deal ROFA. So you have to draft and sign free agent safeties no matter what. Like I said yesterday on my show, if I had one free agent I could pick and choose who I want to sign, it would be Justin Reed, safety, who's with the Kansas City Chiefs last year, high draft pick with the Houston Texans just a few years ago. Great locker room guy, overall great safety, and he could provide some kicker depth for a team that struggled to kick last year. So that's a name to look out for. Javon Holland, the safety, who's with the Dolphins this past season, if he doesn't get tagged there. And then through the draft, if you want to go really high in the 1st round, at 7, you want to reach Malachi Starks from Georgia, is a ball-hawking safety, a true center field type guy. Then in the 2nd round, you're looking at, a Xavier Watts and Nick Amunwari. And then you can if you even want to go later in the draft, you're looking at an Elijah Clark from Syracuse and R.J. Mickens, son of Ray Mickens, former Jet, obviously, from Clemson. So this is the safety heavy. There's a lot of solid safeties in this year's draft, so you could certainly fill that need. And cornerback, 1,000%, you need someone to play opposite Sauce Gardner. I don't think there's going to be one particular guy. If I had to pick a leader in the clubhouse right now, I'd say it's Brendan Eccles, who I think will come back on something like a 2-year, $10 million deal. But the Jets can draft some names, in this year's draft. Darian Porter is my name to watch from Iowa with the 92nd overall pick. If the Jets want to address cornerback there, I think they're going to draft a corner or two, along with, signing someone in free agency. Carlton Davis is someone I'd really want to see come in and play opposite Sauce Gardner. He was with the Lions last year, Super Bowl winner with the Bucs just a few years ago. And then another name who has ties to the Jets defensive coaching staff, Charvarius Ward, who was with the 49ers last year. Really, really solid corner in this league, and then has the connection to Steve Wilks. So those are the main guys I'm looking for. Appreciate all your support as always. Where are we? Groove in the building. Grove. I think I've been saying Groove. Grove Pete. That's what it is. Grove Pete. Going up costs too much. Trade down and collect your lineman. Sign your bridge quarterback. Grove, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not too big on any offensive lineman in the first round, unless like even Jack Connerly from Oregon, is pretty much my tackle number one in this year's class. I think he's potential to do great things at the NFL level. I don't want to draft him in the first round. Like, even if you trade back to 2025, I don't want to draft him. The two linemen that are being talked about the most, and Will Campbell Jr. and Kelvin Banks Jr., the two tackles, I think both of them are ultimately going to have to transition into guard at the next level. Campbell obviously has that tall stance, which is ultimately going to hurt him. Kelvin Banks Jr., great versatility, but ultimately he's such a handsy tackle. He was so handsy with Texas this past season. So hard pass on those guys. I agree with trading down if you could recoup some other picks. And then, here's what I do. My ideal scenario is if you could trade down to like 12 in that 12 to 15 range, you put yourself in play for a Kenneth Grant, for example, the interior defensive lineman from Michigan, Walter Nolan, the interior defensive lineman from Ole Miss. So those are some names I'm gonna look out for. Trade back if you want to really build up the trenches. No offensive lineman though, particularly I like in the first round. The offensive lineman I want to keep my eye on if he somehow falls to 92. Or, for example, that trade back scenario, I'm making it up. You pick up a pick in the 60s, something along those lines. Ozzy Trapillo, the tackle at Boston College, grew up in the Northeast, played at Boston College in cold weather, obviously. So he had a great conversation with Dom C down at the Senior Bowl. Dom C's really high on him. So Ozzy Trapillo from Boston College is a name I'm going to look out for. Harlan. The Jets pick a quarterback should be day 3. Day 3, you're looking at rounds 4 through 7. I'd say late day 2 or day 3 period. Because late day 2, I think you open yourself up into the window of a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord, someone of that nature. If you're looking at pure day 3, you're looking at like a Graham Mertz, the quarterback out of Florida, Curtis Rourke from Indiana if he somehow falls, Tyler Shaw from Louisville if he falls. So those are I think the overall day 3 names you're looking at. Again, Jalen Milroe, someone of that nature if he were to fall. At that point, it's tough. I'd go late day 2. If you're really, it depends who you fall in love with. I feel like if you really fall in love with a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord, and you're concerned they're not going to be there on day 3, and you really like them on day 2, you might as well pull the trigger if that is your guy. So Will Howard, Kyle McCord, I'd be okay with on late day 2. And then day 3, like I said, Curtis Rourke from Indiana, Tyler Shaw from Louisville, Jalen Milroe if he falls. Those are the names I'm looking out for. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights in the building. Appreciate your support as always. Channel member, appreciate you tuning in. Where are we? Got to that. Thomas, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your support. How do you feel about the Jets bringing Morgan Moses back? Well, Thomas, Jets actually aren't bringing Morgan Moses back. Quick thoughts on them. Most likely not bringing him back. I've talked about it a lot though recently. I think you're just creating another unnecessary hole. Someone you could have brought back $5 to $7 million next season. Someone who provides a lot of offensive tackle depth, who can come in and be a quality starter when called on. Someone Aaron Glenn I think would really like to have in the building. He's a veteran guy, a leader, as this team really tries to find the next right tackle of the future. So it doesn't make sense to me as to why the Jets would move on from here, from Morgan Moses. I don't get it. So overall, I think it's a poor move. Zoink Nation, our guy in the chat, he comes in, he says, Connor Long. I wanted the Jets to draft Justin Fields. So Zoink Nation, I'm curious to see, would you want them to take a flyer on him now? Because Justin Fields for the longest time was, who the Jets were going to draft. We're talking about in the college season, and then it goes, boom, Zach Wilson, skyrockets up draft boards, a month after the season. So again, Justin Fields, if you're just tuning in, rewind first 25 minutes of the show. We were joined by Brian Costello, the New York Post. We're both very high on Justin Fields. Pay him $8 million to come in next season, take a flyer on him, see what he has. And again, me and Kaz, a lot of people want Kirk Cousins next year, which I think is an absolute joke. Me and Kaz and I have the same thought process when it comes to the quarterback. You might as well take a flyer on him because at least he has some upside compared to Kirk Cousins. Like we said, that's a 1-year thing. His great days are past them. Maybe, he puts together a 7-8 win season next year. Great. But for example, that's a hit, I think, with Kirk Cousins. A hit with Justin Fields. He's your quarterback over the next few seasons with the Jets. So I just think there's I think there's a lot more upside with Justin Fields, someone who's going to be 26 in a few months, than trotting out 30-something-year-old Kirk Cousins, whose arm was shot last year and can't run to save his life. So I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button. You are subscribed to the channel. Keep the questions going. We'll get to those. If you want to call into the show, you could do so by using the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Let's go over to the phone lines. Our guy Nick T is up first here on the show. Nick, we haven't spoken in a while. I had your wrestling show on in the background earlier today, although I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, nor do I know anything, but I turned it on in the background, thought it was a great way to support you, Nick.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Of course.
We all support each other here, right?
Yes, sir. Appreciate the call. What's on your mind?
So yeah, I'm interested to see where things are going, and I appreciate you getting that comment to Brian, because I really believe, and it's more of a older school mentality of like the Parcells theory, which is ironic because apparently I found out later, like, he didn't really draft very many quarterbacks with the same statistic. But I really love that idea of, and that theory of how he goes about selecting quarterbacks, even though he didn't necessarily do it. Like Jackson Dart fits a lot of that.
Okay.
And I like him a lot. I think Jackson Dart and Cam Ward are the top two quarterbacks in this class to me. Shadir reminds me ironically very much of a young Tyrod. Like, which
that was my comp for him. Funny enough, that's actually my comp for him. Don't mean to cut you off there.
No.
Like, he's not the craziest athlete in the world. I don't think Tyrod was particularly as cocky as him when he was coming out of college, given it was again another era, didn't have as much charisma, as much aura when he was coming out. But again, from like an athletic standpoint, the way they play, able to take off, make their reads, and then take off when needed, that was my comp right away, actually. So that's funny.
Well, it's fun. It's I forget who it was. It might have been, I can't even throw it out this, but like someone compared him and they're like, if he didn't have the Sanders last name, you would say third or fourth round pick. And what was Tyrod? Third or fourth round? I think third or fourth round.
I think he was a third. I think it was a third.
So I see a lot, like, but again, listen, I would love it. Let the Giants take him. Please. Please just do it.
Okay.
No, because I like, that's a headache. The Deion Sanders like background noise.
He's a 6th round pick, actually. Wow, I thought he was way higher.
Oh shit.
Damn.
Yeah. I had no idea he was. I guess Rex was, I think, the first one who really gave him that shot, because Baltimore, he might have had like 2 or 3 starts in like some down year. And then Rex really gave him that shot in Buffalo. But
and then he had opportunities with LA just a few years ago. He had an opportunity with the Texans. Then ultimately injuries just killed him. I want to touch on what you said about Jackson Dart there briefly, of him being your quarterback 2 in this year's class. Nick, you're not going to find someone much lower on Jackson Dart than I am. Quarterback 5 for me in this year's draft class. Explain why Jackson Dart is your quarterback 2, and then I will give my rebuttal.
So aside from, again, it might be antiquated and old theories, but I love the Parcells theory of like he's won a lot of games. His completion percentage is up. His TD to interception ratio is very good. He has a lot of things. Ole Miss is also a school. He came from USC, transferred to Ole Miss. It's also a school relatively like there's, and maybe it's a bad way of thinking, but there's schools that don't translate to the quarterback, like that just don't have quarterbacks in the pro system. Listen, as much as I'll give you one right now, just came from New York and won 2 titles in New York. Eli Manning went to Ole Miss. So right then and there, I'm not dismissing that school from someone who's won, let alone anywhere but in New York. So say what you will. I know we all, as Jet fans, don't like Giant fans, right? We don't like the Giants, but the reality is we're trying to win a Super Bowl. So give me the best player who gives me that chance to do it. And a lot of the tape that I see with him is it's not scripted throws. And same thing with Cam Ward. This is why I like Cam Ward.
He's a great improviser.
Exactly. It's not. I guess that's
off script playmaking.
Not necessarily off, but I don't care if you can run necessarily, but if someone's in your face and you're going to hit someone accurately with the throw, that's a good quarterback to me.
Mhm.
And that's what matters most. I don't care if you're that mobile, but can you make the right read and hit the person in stride to make the big play? And that's what I see from him more than
Okay.
anything.
Yeah, here's my thing, Nick. I'm not discrediting the school of Ole Miss. What I'm discrediting most about them is the way Lane Kiffin runs his offense. Don't get me wrong, Lane Kiffin is a great college coach. Obviously, we saw him come into the NFL level with the Raiders, and that did not go well. I think he won 5 games overall as the Raiders head coach. So that's the first thing. They scheme receivers open, quarterback friendly reads. You bring in Jackson Dart with the 7th overall pick. He's going to have to sit for a full year because you're going to have to teach him how to play the position at the NFL level. That's one of the main reasons I'm so high on Will Howard. He's my quarterback 2 in this year's class. I'm not saying he's going to be as great as a Cam Ward. I'm not saying he has a higher ceiling than a Jalen Milroe or a Shedeur Sanders. My whole thing is you're able to bring him in, and I think among the quarterbacks this year, I think he's going to have the most seamless transition into the NFL level because he's been running a pro-style offense over the past few seasons at Ohio State with Chip Kelly as his offensive coordinator. That's number 1 for me with Jackson Dart. Doesn't run a pro level offense. Number 2, the upper body mechanics are really solid. The lower body mechanics are an absolute mess. So boom, add that. You have to repair that. What I'm looking for with the 7th overall pick, I want someone who's going to come in year 1 and be at least an average quarterback. Jackson Dart does not provide that. I think that goes back to my point where I have a late round 3, early round 4 grade on him. He is a project who you're going to need to take in and sit for a year. When you draft someone with the 7th overall pick, you want them to come in, be a starter right away, and be a daily and be a weekly contributor, like Drake May pretty much showed over his past last season. Was he particularly an above average quarterback last year? Did he show flashes that made the Patriots fans happy? For sure, he performed like an average quarterback last year. Obviously, he was the 2nd overall pick, but you're looking for something similar in someone you drafted with the 7th overall pick, and then pressure bearing down. Most importantly, boom, just falters and gets killed. He panics when pressure's bearing down. It's not that the pocket awareness is that bad compared to a Jalen Milroe, who I think just has an awful pocket presence, doesn't have any pocket awareness whatsoever. When pressure is bearing down, though, his mechanics all go down the toilet. Everything goes to waste. He tries to be Superman, make the big play, and ultimately fails. So that's where I am on Jackson Dart right now, Nick.
Which is fair. I think it's a fair assessment. But I think I see a lot of similarities between Jackson Dart and I don't want to say Patrick Mahomes because it's just the pressure that I saw. I didn't think he was a first round talent.
Sorry, you're gonna say Patrick Mahomes though, because they ran the same style offense in college. I have a feeling that's
so. But you're talking about pro offenses, but I would argue to the same extent, like a Lane Kiffin offense is still a pro. Like Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, they're both pro style offenses.
No,
right?
Lane Kiffin is known to give quarterback isolated friendly reads and scheme receivers open. Chip Kelly just got the job as the offensive coordinator with the Las Vegas Raiders. He can scheme receivers open at times. Will Howard is familiar with running the pro-level offensive scheme. Someone who, yes, Lane Kiffin's been an NFL coach at the NFL level. That's what he's ultimately known for. But Chip Kelly, he's ultimately known for his time with Ole Miss. But Chip Kelly's been at the NFL level before. He picks up tidbits from really solid NFL coaches, and that's ultimately what goes into his offense. So while there's a little bit of that, trying to scheme guys open, there's also a lot of that pro-heavy stuff in there.
So you're arguing pro Chip Kelly versus Lane Kiffin, correct?
I'm saying his offense. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that.
Oh,
I'm saying his offense. For example, I would take Chip Kelly as my head coach at the NFL level over Lane Kiffin. 1,000%.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I think Lane Kiffin is a more accomplished college coach. What I'm saying is Chip Kelly's style of offense is clearly way more effective at the NFL level than Lane Kiffin's was. Lane Kiffin was weeded out of the league in a very, very short amount of time. Now you see a guy like Chip Kelly comes off winning the national championship, and boom, he's back at the NFL level. That's my whole argument.
No, that's a fair point. I'll give you that. But I would argue that still the offense is not the same level, but very similar. I don't think it's that much of a difference between the pro level between a Lane Kiffin offense and a Chip Kelly. Yeah, very much more effective, but I don't think the development for a quarterback at either level requires that much more or less. You know what I mean? In terms of mental adaptation to the league, right? Like the same thing. That's kind of how I view it.
Okay.
To me, and that's kind of my point with like some of these. I still think there's an avenue for us as a group, as a team, to be successful this year, right? There's a lot of talent on this
For
team.
sure.
And I don't, let's just say what are they projected to have cap wise this year? Is it 50 million?
Around 50 to in the 50 to 65 million dollar range. I'd say if I had to make a prediction, you're looking at 54, 57 million dollars. Right now, let me pull it up. Right now it's like 30 something, but obviously that's going to go up once they once they officially move on from all these guys. Let's see where they're at right now. 23 actually million dollars. So I was even lower, but let me put in all the moves as you talk and then I'll tell you where we're going to be at.
Well, I guess because this is going to kind of prompt my question about this. Because
Uh-huh.
how much do you value a second round? I would argue, I guess, a second round pick, but more likely a third round pick. Like, because
For Dart?
no, not for Dart. I'm sorry. I'm moving on to like the Devontae Adams situation, because they're going to
Okay.
cut Devontae, right?
Yeah.
But you save more by cutting him, and I think they save like 20 million by cutting him. But
30 it's post June 1 they saved 36.5 million. But that doesn't go into effect until June 1st, which is the annoying part there.
so pre June 1st, so free agency money, what would they save?
I've only experimented, let me check that, good question. I've only experimented with the post June 1 cuz I've always thought that was the most effective. Well, not keeping in mind here if they pre June 1 they eat $8 million in dead cap and they save 29 million. So
Yeah,
just cutting Devontae alone, not even putting the Rodgers, we'll do both. Let's see what happens. So Rodgers post June 1, 63. That's $63 million right there. But keep in mind the 14, the nine and a half, excuse me, from Rodgers won't go into effect until June 1st. So you don't have that money to spend in free agency.
I guess I'm just like, and this is just like maybe just me being super stingy, but like we just gave up a third round pick for the guy. So I'm just, I don't want to just let him go for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so 23 million, right? Can they build a decent enough team with the 23 million to trade him and get a second or third round pick back? Because we lost that third round pick, and I think we as a team need to really and I think Glenn values those picks just as much. And whether it's a second, I don't think they're getting a second round pick for him, but like if someone's willing to give a third round pick back what we just gave up for him, I might I don't know. And maybe I'm just being like really gung-ho on like let's just get back relatively, like recoup some of our losses, but it's kind of that like you have to weigh it out, right? Like is a third round pick and 20 million on cap savings, is 20 million on cap savings worth more than trading Devontae Adams for a third round pick and having 20 to 30 million in cap room?
The thing is, Nick, you're not getting a third round pick for him because the whole thing is his contract. I have it up here. 2025 cap number is $38.5 million. Same in 2026, and then 2027 a void year, so you only owe him $4 million. But no one's trading for that. I say his trade value right now, conditional fifth. If he plays 50% of their offense, 60, 70% of the next team's offensive snaps, turns into a fifth round pick. That's what you're looking at. At that point, I'd rather just cut him, free up the 20-something million dollars in cap room, use that money to add a Tim Patrick as your wide receiver 3, sign a Josh Palmer in free agency, and then add a name or two throughout the draft. Like I know the names aren't all that attractive, but that's what we're looking at. Like T. Higgins, who got franchise tagged. Even if he didn't get tagged, the Jets don't have enough money to pay him 5 years, $85 million. Like they don't have that.
And I don't know, like, and you probably know this better than I do at this point. Like, I don't know how the cap affects, because I know like trading has a different dead cap effect. So like, how does that affect? Like, if they restructured his deal, right? We traded for him. We restructured his deal. So if the team acquiring him, whoever it is, let's just say Las Vegas, but whatever, Green Bay, right? wants to acquire him back and says, "Yeah, we'll give you a third. We'll restructure it to he's making his cap number is 15 million."
Mhm.
Does that change the whole complexion of the deal? I don't know.
Maybe, but if you're gonna, maybe, but if you're gonna do that, you might as well just keep him. Like you might as well just keep him at that point. If you're gonna restructure his entire deal, you're better off keeping him than trying to trade him for some sort
Well,
of.
no. The Jets aren't restructuring. Like the acquiring team's restructuring the deal, not the Jets. The Jets aren't going to restructure.
Here's the thing. Davante Adams, what he wants to happen, Nick, I'm going to tell you this. What he wants to happen is the Jets cut him pre-June 1, and he has the cream of the crop. He has the opportunity to pick wherever he wants. I just don't think, even if you restructure his deal, how low is he willing to go? Lower that AAV, what, $25 million? And let's keep in mind, restructuring the deal just doesn't throw all the money away. That just pushes the money further down the road for the team. So I just think his current cap scenario, the best option for both sides in the Jets and Adams, cut him pre-June 1, move on. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Point blank period.
So no. But what I'm saying is, like, I think, I agree with you. Like you're saying, is the cap room even pre-June 1 is more important than, even if it were, let's just say some team like the Rams, whoever, let's just name it, comes in with a third or second round pick, is more important at this point because we could build.
Well, second and third round pick, I'd prefer. How you're not getting that though. You're just not. Like if a team calls and says we'll give you a second round pick for Davante Adams, oh my God, you make that trade as quick as humanly possible. Thing is, his value right now is a 5th or a 6th round pick. No one's going to pay him. Again, you mentioned restructuring, but no one is just going to want to take on that cap money. I think the only chance he plays with any team next season is if the Jets just cut him and move on. That's the only opportunity I think any team. That's the only situation I think where any team will be willing to take a flyer on him. Just the $38 million is insane.
No, it is. I agree with you. I just don't know. I'm not an expert with the cap. I don't know how the trades work and then restructuring works to your cap number for the acquiring team. That's what I'm saying. Like some team, I'm just throwing it out there. Let's just say Tampa Bay has $100 million in cap room. They can restructure the deal, acquiring him, and they may be more inclined to say, "Hey, like I don't have." I'm just Tampa Bay
for sure.
Bad example, but like I don't have a wide receiver 2, but I have $80 million in cap room. I will pay him 15, 25 million in whatever this cap number is, and I'll give you a second round pick for him. If there's a team that's willing to do that and that has the cap room to do that, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I don't know the cap rules in the NFL.
The question is, who is that team? Who is willing?
Right.
Maybe the Texans, maybe the Chargers, maybe
Green Bay.
One of those teams. Yeah. Again, is the thing is they're not, even if they want to restructure their deal, I don't think they're taking that into account of this trade. I think they're looking at Davante Adams, who he is right now, that current contract. I think they're looking and they're pretty much going to say, we'll give you a 5th round pick. I don't think they're going to say, you know what, Darren Muji, we'll restructure his contract. So that said, we'll give you a 3rd round pick for him instead. I just don't think that changes much more of the story. Like I think his value is still going to be a 5th or a 2nd. Whoever trades for him, point blank period, is going to have to restructure his deal.
I agree.
But they're still going to look at his number, and that's his value. You can't change that. That is still his value. For example, let's say the Jets were going to make a trade trade Aaron Rodgers to the San Francisco 49ers. They look at his number as 37.5 in 2025 and 63 in 2026. Obviously, they're going to restructure his deal once they trade for him, but they're not just going to give away free capital and, tip their hand that, we're just going to restructure his deal, which is the obvious there, if that makes any sense. Like his value is still, in my opinion, a 5th round pick no matter what, because the consensus option is they're still going to restructure the contract. I don't think under any circumstance you're getting a 2nd or a 3rd for Davante Adams. I really don't.
No, again, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know that it's going to, but again, the acquiring team, both teams know that though. Like let's not be dumb. Like Muji also is smart enough to realize that the acquiring team, like a buyer, I'm a sales guy. A buyer also, or a seller also knows what the buyer's ideas are.
Yeah.
So you still have to still take into that into account. So
that goes into the whole story why you wouldn't trade them. Like, for example, you mentioned a buyer taking into a seller knowing what a buyer wants. 1000%. A buyer is going to say a 5th round pick. I think that's the value right now. Like Darren Mushi knows that whoever acquires him is going to restructure the deal. But I just don't see anyone going higher than a 5th-round pick. Devontae Adams, someone who's in his 30s right now, coming off what was an okay season. I just don't think there's much value there. And again, if you're going to get a 5th-round pick, you might as well just cut him and move on.
No, I agree. If that's the price, that's where we're in agreement. Like I just don't know. Like I don't know how, again, cap wise, like, is he viewed as a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL still, or top 30? I mean, what's a top 30's value? Is that worth a top, 3? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what's comp, but it's an interesting dilemma. Regardless, Connor, it's always fun chatting with you.
For sure. Nick, appreciate you hopping on with me as always. Have a great night.
Catch you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guy Nick T popping in here on the show. If you guys want to call into the show, you can do so by using the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. Any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to those. Gonna wrap up here soon. So last chance to go into the show. I have my we're talking draft there. I have my mock draft senses are tingling, if you will. So throw a poll if you guys want to see it. I'll stay on a little longer. We can run a 7th-round mock draft. Should we do a mock draft? We did one the other day, but I am really, really in the mood right now to talk some draft. But it's up to you guys. Let me know. But in the meantime, make sure you smash the like, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. Helps us grow significantly here on the program, on here every single night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys are the best. So it's okay if you guys don't want to see it. I just thought I'd throw the poll up. In the meantime, as we look at the chat, we'll give it a few minutes until we look at that. Everyone, two voted. You both say yes, you want to see it. If anyone can vote at the pinned, it's with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. So like I said, vote on that, please, if you haven't already. Love to hear your insight there. Where are we? Where were we in the chat? Harlan says, who says Manning is coming out of college? I don't even think it's a guarantee coming out of college. My whole point there, Manning was just one of many names. My whole point is next year's quarterback class overall is just so stacked compared to this year's, where you essentially have value everywhere compared to trying to give up next year's first-year opportunity to take a quarterback just to try to go all in on Cam Ward. I think that's a massive mistake. So I think there's a strong chance he comes out, especially if he isn't the consensus number 1 overall option, because we haven't seen anything of him in college. So it's still an uncertain what he's going to look like for sure. Our guy Yer is in the building. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your support in the show as always. Zorg Nation, I'd be very happy if the Jets got Justin Fields. He's a cannon, mobility, very tough, and young. He's a lot of potential. Just needs some stability. There we go. Here's the thing. The main concern is his accuracy and how he's poor pocket awareness at times. You mentioned the mobility, though. Still poor pocket awareness at times. Accuracy is also a massive concern with his arm strength. So a lot of pros with Justin Fields and also a lot of cons. But at the same time, I don't think they're getting anyone with more upside than Justin Fields this offseason. Someone who's going to be 26 years old, who's shown glimmers of hope as potentially being that franchise-type guy. I'm not saying he is, but like Kaz was saying, you hit on Justin Fields, you have your quarterback over the next few seasons. For sure. NJ Lauren in the building. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your support on the show. As always, Fields is mobile, Cousins not. And in the run-first offense, he could do well. It is also possible with a good system, Fields could do well. Arthur Smith is not an innovative offensive coordinator. 1,000%. You just have so much more upside with Fields. Like, you know what you're getting in Kirk Cousins. There's still that mystery with Justin Fields that he is, some upside at this point in his career. Agree 1,000%. Appreciate all your support. As always, keep the questions coming. Like I said, I'll get to those. Call into the show, pin comment in the chat. All of you say 100% of you guys in the chat say you want to see a mock draft. So you know what? Friday night, as you would say, the Knicks are getting smoked. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I assume a lot of you are. We'll end the poll and we'll run it up. PFF mock draft simulator coming up here on the show. Our second mock draft of the week. We did one on Monday, I think it was. But hey, draft season's coming up. It's a great time of the year, so let's do it. Before we pull it up, Swamp Ranger says, Connor, have you watched any of Kurt Bankert's breakdown of this quarterback class? He has solidified my opinion that if the Jets draft a quarterback, it has to be Will Howard. I'm big on Will Howard, Swamp Ranger. As you know, he's my quarterback too, but I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched Kurt Benkert great mind overall. Obviously, didn't succeed as a quarterback in the league, but great mind. I watch a lot of his Instagram videos, so I will look at that 1000%. But Will Howard's my quarterback too in this year's class, and has nothing to do with Ben Kurt's breakdown. So I'm sure that will sway me in even more positive direction when it comes to Will Howard. So thank you for letting me know. I will check those out a little later. But let's pull up the mock draft simulator for tonight. We'll roll with our standard PFF mock draft simulator. Jets 7th overall pick. Let's pull up the screen. Boom, and then I'll go full. All right, we'll try to make it so you guys can see. Then I'm gonna go draft for needs. Public, even with PFF, 7 rounds. New York Jets enter draft. And obviously, like I know, I want you guys to have say in this year in the draft as well, like we've always done. All right. Per normal, the worst case scenario possible. All the solid players that I think the Jets should look to covet off the board, and only one team wants to trade with us. Well. Who's that team and where are they? Okay. It's the Atlanta Falcons with the 15th. Okay. I don't hate that. I like that 15th to 17th range. What should we do here, chat? Do we take someone? Do we look at a trade back? We're taking someone. It's 6'6", 260-pound Tyler Warren. Great yak ability, able to accelerate after the catch, able to, force missed tackles, like I said. Look at those contested catch rate. Look at that contested catch rate. Contested catches, wow. If you're taking anyone here, it's Tyler Warren. I'm personally trading back, seeing what you can get for a trade back. Let me know what you guys want to see in the chat, then we'll make our pick. So you're gonna do in the meantime, let's go with this. Ooh, we pick up 46. We pick up 16. We could do this. Wow. Harlan says trade back if you can. All right. We'll try to throw this in. Boom. Great trade back. We get 15, 46, and 116 in exchange for 7. What a deal. All right. Here we are, 15th overall pick right now. Again, the board isn't all that attractive. It really isn't. It isn't for me. Will Johnson, maybe. Walter Nolan is who I'm circling on this list right now. Over 300 pounds, 305 pounds, 6'3". I mean, look at those overall that run defense. Great. I'm leaning Walter Nolan right now. I'm not the biggest Will Johnson fan right now. Yours says trade back. I think he might be a little delayed. Swamp Ranger says right tackle from Mizzou. Armand Membu. Chat's a little behind, I think. Swamp says no, yeah, because Jojo said Warren. Swamp says Nolan's too small. What do you judge small? He's 6'3", he's 6'3", 305. I don't want to go tackle right now. I just think it's too rich. Too rich for me right now. And if I were to go tackle, I'm telling you right now, it'd be Gray Zabel, the tackle out of North Dakota State, dude. Absolutely, right here. Impressed at the Senior Bowl. 6'6", 305, really big tackle, pass blocking grade, run blocking grade. Solid. Let's look at trade back, though. Where could we go? Could we get back to 21 and recoup? Can we recoup? Oh. I think this could be great. Let me know what you think here. If we go back to 21 and pick up 53, can we get 85 in there too? Should we try this? We go back to 21, we pick up 53. That could be good. We recoup more capital and we trade back. Swamp, nobody took Membu. He's still on the board. Should we explore this, though? Trade back again? Jojo says linebacker. I think it's way too early for a linebacker. Not way too, because you have Jahad Campbell, but he's going to be there at 42. I have a strong feeling he'll be there at 42. Harlan just could be a good deal. We'll throw it in. Swamp says take Membu, solidify your tackles for the next decade. It's split right now. Someone break the tie. Do we trade back, take Membu? What do we do? Next comment will dictate what we do here. Next comment will dictate what we do. So get your answer in the chat quickly here. All right, Swamp's clamoring for Membu. Spamming it in the chat. I'm gonna be honest, not the biggest fan of it. but I'll run it up. This is a show of the people, and the people want Armand Membu. Graded pretty high from PFF. Let's look at his size. 3'6", 314. I would have traded back. I'm with you there, but Swamp, it was whoever gets the next comment in makes the pick. Swamp did it after it was a split tie, so Armand Membu is our pick. And I told you guys Campbell would be there. Told you Campbell would be there. Now, this is a really, really rough scenario for me. I love Tyleek Williams, but I love Jihad Campbell at the same time. Tyleek, 6'3", 327. Huge run-stuffing interior defensive lineman. Look at that run defense grade. He could plug right next to Quinn Williams. But then Jihad Campbell also stopped the run as a linebacker. First in coverage, stops 47th in run stops. 6'3", 244 pounds. I'm really, really high on Campbell. I'm really high on Williams. I really like Xavier Watts too. But with those two guys on the board, he comes out of the equation for me. I'm high on Landon Jackson too. Great week down in Mobile. But again, too high with those two guys with those two guys. I can't pass up. Swamp says Campbell's the best. I agree 1,000%. We can get a big fatty later in the draft. You guys want Campbell? Let's see. I'll wait for some other guys to get involved here until we make the pick. But I would love to. Jihad Campbell, I would love him. I would love him with the Jets. I think realistically, though, he ends up going in the first round. And let's keep in mind here, this isn't it when it comes to picking from the cream of this crop, because we have 46th. We have 46 available too. Yours is that Notre Dame tight end there. Mitchell Evans, he's going to be there forever. Right here. Way too early to go ahead and try to draft Mitchell Evans. He's going to be there in the 5th, 6th round. I'm with you. I'm with you guys. Campbell, should we run it up? Let me know what you guys want to see in the chat. We'll wait a little longer here before we put the pick in. Agree 1,000%. Swap. We need draft guys planning on having for the next 6 to 9 years. Well, you get that in Jihad Campbell. So like I said, guys, last chance to get your insight in here before we make the pick. And Harlan says get Campbell, so that'll do it. We'll take Jihad Campbell. 42nd overall, and then we're back up quickly. 46, boom. This is an easy pick for me. Obviously, we're going to get your insight here because that's what we do with every single freaking pick in the draft. This is an easy pick for me, though. I'm going Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, without a question. Need a lot of safety help. Someone who has a high football IQ, quick to get downhill and stop the run. Great in pass coverage, like see there. That's a low passer rating allowed. Great coverage, quick downhill to stop the run. We're talking 6 foot, 203 pounds, 23 years old. Well, Xavier Watts, without a question, for me is the pick. But like I said, a show of the people, so I want to get your insight as always. Swamps is take the safety from South Carolina at 92. You're talking about Nick Amanwari. Says look for wide receiver, cornerback. Restrepo, maybe? I'll put cornerback in there too. Darian Porter. If you guys were listening to the show earlier today, I spoke about Darian Porter. Higgins is there. Jalen Royals, another name I mentioned. Azariah Thomas, I'm really, really high on, but you could probably get him later. Swamp Higgins from Iowa State is there. He's on the board. Says Higgins, big body. Yeah. What is he, 6'4"? I think he's 6'4". Yeah, 6'4", 215. High receiving grade. Solid statistics. Big body, like you see the contested catch number there. Higgins or Porter for me right now. Both from Iowa State. I'm leading Higgins right now. Swamp says I'd take Higgins. We'll wait a little longer for everyone else to get involved. Where are you? Do we take Jaden Higgins? What do we do here? Jet fans? Jaden Higgins is my personal favorite. I'm going to be honest. Him and Xavier Watts are the two guys I'm looking at. Swamp really likes Jaden Higgins, so last chance to get your insight in here before we run the pickup. Give it about 10 more seconds. Let's see. All right, I don't see anyone else chiming in the chat, so it seems like Higgins is the consensus. We're going to go ahead and run it up. Jaden Higgins, Iowa State, our pick. Pick 46 in the draft. And the next up here, 92. I predicted it. Whoa. I said Isaiah Thomas was going to be there. I'm a huge fan of his as a cornerback. What is he, 6'1"? 6'2". 6'2", 198. And then you have Nick Amanwari, who is my safety number 3 in this year's class behind Starks and Watts. Really, really high coverage grade. I think he's someone you're able to plug and play in your scheme right away to make an impact. I really like Amanwari, but I think Isaiah Thomas, it's a deep safety class overall. It's a really, really deep safety class. So I think Isaiah Thomas is hard to pass up on. Hard to pass up on. Where are you guys in the chat? Who should we take? Let us know in the chat, guys. Yeah, Swamp makes a great point. Coin toss between Amanwari and Thomas, for sure. Let me know. Who do we take here, guys? Who do we take? It's really, really close. Like, both are positions in need. Safety, you need more bodies, but cornerback, you're looking for someone to really come in right away and plug right next to play opposite of Sauce Gardner. Swamp says I'd go safety. Like I just said, we don't have any on the roster. All right. We'll wait a few more seconds for other people if you want to get involved in the chat to help make the pick. If not, Amanwari is the pick as of now. You can make a strong, strong case for either one. Certainly can. Who do we have so far? Membu, Campbell, Higgins. All right. I think you go safety. Joe just says QB. I think that's out of the question. No one else really wants a QB right now. And then Harlan says grab the safety. So Nick Amanwari is our pick, and then we're back up 108 right here quickly. Jojo, this is where you could go quarterback. Will Howard's here in the 4th round. You take him. For all the reasons I've listed, 6'4", over 1,800 dropbacks to the college level. Look at that. Has the deep ball, insanely accurate. 5th in adjusted completion percentage. 19th in deep yards, 18th in screen yards. Telling you, someone who's 6'4", 225 pounds, 235, excuse me. You take Will Howard. I see you guys talking about Howard in the chat. Implement a pro-level scheme with him. Accurate. Athleticism good enough to get by. Boom. Will Howard it is. And Swamp says, and a winner. True. 1,000%. Now we're back up 116. So let's check our current outlook. Membu, Campbell, Higgins, Amanwari, Howard. What else do we need? We need an interior guy right now. We need an interior guy. We have a linebacker. We have a cornerback. We haven't taken a tight end yet. We have not taken a tight end yet. Terrence Ferguson from Oregon had a great week down at the Senior Bowl. Forced a lot of missed tackles last year. Great yak guy. 6'5", 255. He could be the guy we're looking at here because the fatties in the middle. Let's see where they're at right now. We can wait a little. Cam Horsley, I'm a huge fan of, from Boston College, in like round 6th round, I think it is actually where he's supposed to go. I'm leaning Ferguson right now. Let me know where you guys are in the chat here before we put the pick in. I'm leaning Terrence Ferguson right now. And then we have, for those who are just tuning in, we're doing a mock draft right now. The picks we have right now, we traded back to pick 15, recouped a 2nd-round pick, and then another day 3 pick. We have Armand Membu, Jahad Campbell, Jaden Higgins, Nick Amanwari, and Will Howard all selected. Swamp says Ferguson. All right, we'll take Terrence Ferguson. We needed a tight end. Might as well gone ahead and got him there. Now, we're back up. Got to find a fatty to put in the middle. CJ West from Indiana. What is it? High run blocking grade. 6'2", 317. Could be an appealing name. Let's just go full interior defensive lineman because that's what I'm doing with this pick right now. I think we go full interior defensive lineman here. We hone in on that. CJ West, Tim Smith. Again, I'm really, really high on Horsley, but you could get him in round 6. Elijah Hoosie. Maybe if you want. I see Swamp mentioning him in the chat. We took a cornerback already, though. Did we? No, we didn't take Isaiah Thomas. We didn't. I want to take Hoosie now. I keep thinking we took Thomas as well. We didn't take Isaiah Thomas, so we still need to address cornerback. The cornerbacks, from like a skill standpoint, that you mentioned him being sound in coverage. After the 5th round, the skill, from like a skill standpoint, the list of cornerbacks really, really drops off. I'm going cornerback here in Elijah Hoosie. 5'10", 195 might be a little undersized, but you need to find a cornerback, excuse me, at some point in this year's draft. And after this, skill really, really drops off. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. I'm going Elijah Hoosie here from North Carolina. Let me know where you guys are here before we make the pick. Yours says no corner. Swamp says he wants Hoosie. Yours says he better than Eccles. We don't know. He hasn't taken a snap at the NFL level. We'll see. Brandon Eccles, I think, is a great, great backup cornerback. I don't think he's a starting caliber guy in the NFL, though. You need cornerback depth, too. At some point in this class, you might as well solidify that now with Elijah Hoosie. All right, I think we're going to do it. You guys seem to be on board with it. Let's put it in. Elijah Hoosie, the pick from North Carolina. Now, where are we? Fifth round still, actually. All right, we have 3 picks left. Last pick we're using on a kicker. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm joking. I would prefer to use it on the kicker, but you guys obviously get intel into this. We have dressed everything, which is really, really solid. Now it's time to start doubling up. We could use another safety. Upton Stout from Western Kentucky was really, really impressive down at the Shrine Bowl. Look at that run defense grade. Really, really solid at getting, downhill to stop the run. 5'9", 182. Little undersized for my liking, but Upton Stout, it really, really impressed down at the Shrine Bowl. I knew you mentioned he's small, but Connor Colby, if you want to address the interior, spoke about him earlier, spoke about him over the past week or two. Guard from Iowa, you can lean him. What do the tackles look like right now? The tackle looks like Emory Jones. I don't think Holland Pierce is still there. That's maybe who we used the last pick on. I'm leaning Connor Colby actually at this point. I am. 6'6", 310, big body in the middle. He's going to be a mauler for you in the run game. This potentially gives you the flexibility. You draft him, even though I'm not a huge fan of it. Then you can potentially slide AVT out to guard and give you that full mauler in the run game. Swamp says Nick Nash. Harlan says Colby. Someone break the tie. Who are we taking here? Someone other than Swamp and Harlan. Come in the chat and who are we taking? Who are we taking? Again, my personal preference is Connor Colby, but this is the draft of the people. For example, I wouldn't have taken Armand Membu, but you guys wanted it, so you guys got it. Swamps just look at Nash's stats. Where's Nick Nash? Deep catches are solid. Slot catches. The thing is, we took a wide receiver. We have to address at the offensive line at some point. We went with the big time wide receiver in Jaden Higgins in the the third round, excuse me. Nice. 16 TDs. I saw that. Just let's see. 6'3", 195. I'm still leaning Connor Colby. Someone else come in the chat and break the tie. Harlan, yes, we took a tight end. We took Terrence Ferguson in the 4th round. Who do we take? Let me know here in the chat. Swamp says go Holland Pierce in round 6. You guys really want to go Nick Nash here? Should we do it? It's a mock draft of the people. All right, so go. You said, so you want me to... And then yours is give me the safety. Oh my God, it's split. Who do we take? I think it's Colby. It's literally a 3-way tie right now. Boom. I'm going to give you 20 seconds on a poll. We'll do it. That's what we'll do to break the tie. Poll will be at the top of the chat. Nash. Stout. Connor. Boom. I'm going to start a 20-second timer. Whatever name is in the lead there, we'll take it. So 20 seconds as we launch the poll. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Poll's underway. You have 20 seconds to vote at the top of the chat. 15, 14, 13, 12 for the exact time. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. You guys hear that? I don't know if you could hear it in the mic. There it is. Leading us in the poll is Connor Colby. 83% of you guys wanted Connor Colby, so that's the pick. Connor Colby will be our pick. Wow, that was a very, very stressful past few minutes. You guys wanted Connor Colby? We'd put the poll. It's a mock draft for the people. You guys get him. Connor Colby, 157th overall. Now, who do we have? Who do we have? Horsley still there? Horsley's still there for sure. Yeah, Horsley's there. We haven't taken the guy to put in the middle yet. I think this is Horsley. Yeah. Swamps is big fatty time. Yours says I don't mind kicker here. You go kicker with 206 in my opinion. That's what you use it on for the kicker. All right. I'm leaning Cam Horsley right now. What do you guys want? I'm going Cam Horsley right now. Harlan says native DT. All right, we're gonna just run it up with Cam Horsley then. 6'4", 306. Boston College. Take him. Boom. There we go. And then our last pick. Do we use it on a kicker? Which route do we go here? Pretty much addressed everything except kicker. Harlan says, Swamp says get DT Pierce / kicker. You want to know what we could do? This could be big brain here. Pick up 211 we have 3/6. Here's what we could do. We could try to acquire another pick so we just have more capital this year. We could do that. 211 this year and a 2027 7th is what we'll be returning, what we'll be getting from Seattle in exchange from we have 3/6 next year in exchange for 1/6, just so we can get another pick this year. Should we do that? So we can get Pierce and then the kicker? Is Pierce even on the board still? Yeah, Pierce is on the board. Boom. I think that's a move. Let me know. That could be a really, really solid move. 211 and then a 7th. Oh, no, we could do... I would rather just save it for next year then. And we give up one of our 3. Okay, that's it. Swamp says it. Swamp, yeah. I'll do that. Great trade. And then we still have this pick. 206, 211. So then this is where we get... This is where we get Pierce. And then we get Fitzgerald. Boom. So we're all in lockstep there, so we can just go through these next 2 picks quickly. Holland Pierce. Boom. And then last pick here. Then kicker. There we go. Ryan Fitzgerald. There it is, folks. Our mock draft second one of the week. Oh, they don't like the Membu pick. We haven't even looked at the grades. They don't like the Membu pick. There's our trade. Membu gets a C-. I'm going to be clear. That was Swamp Rangers pick. It's a mock draft of the people. None of these, I gave my suggestions. I didn't like Membu. I gave my suggestions for every pick. Some of them of which you guys followed, some of which you didn't. Membu gets a C-. Campbell gets an A-. Solid. Higgins with a D+. All right. Amon Warrior, A-. Will Howard with an A. Terrence Ferguson with a C+. Huzzy with a B+. Connor Colby C+. Horsley C-. Pierce D. Fitzgerald D. Overall grade a B. All right. Good point there, Swamp. It's all what PFF based on their big board, Trevor Sycama's big board, where they have those guys ranked. And after about 30 minutes of being off screen, where am I? Boom. I'm back. Appreciate you guys. As always, think that's going to do it for us. Appreciate all your support tonight. Did a mock draft. Sat down with Brian Costello, the New York Post, for the first 25 minutes of the show. So if you're just tuning in, rewind, go back and watch that. Can't thank you enough for all of your support here on this Friday evening. Back tomorrow, 8:15 p.m., joined by our guy Tigo from Talking Jets with Tigo in his weekly spot. You guys are the best. Appreciate all your support. Make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel on your way out tonight. That'll do it for me. Like I said, appreciate all your support. I am your host, Connor Long, signing off here on this Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. JTS, Jets, Jets, Jets.